The long-awaited Dune Part 2 comes out this Friday. I was lucky to see it about a week ago now, and to be completely honest with you, it's taken me almost all of that time to really consolidate my thoughts on this film, because there's a lot here. And the first thing I have to start this review with, I did not know that this was Part 2 of 3. I was very much sure that this was going to be a second part in a duology to really wrap up the series. About maybe like an hour into this film, I realized, wait a minute. The pace at which this film is progressing, I don't think they're gonna get to everything. I don't think they're gonna be able to finish everything. And sure enough, they didn't, because it's a part 2. Please go into this movie with that expectation and just know that that is partially where I'm coming from the rest of this. Much like the first movie, this is still a spectacle to behold, but it left me with the same lack of finality or of satisfaction that usually comes with a film. And now, obviously, this being in the middle of a trilogy, you may not expect those same things, but when I think about other sci-fi or fantasy series that have come in this like trilogy type, there is a certain level of satisfaction or even a cliffhanger that really makes it feel like you're ending on a high note to go into a third installment, or to feel like you can just watch the second movie and not immediately follow with the third. I think of Catching Fire. I think of, more notably, Empire Strikes Back. You could pop in Empire Strikes Back, and I probably would choose to watch that and not watch A New Hope or Return of the Jedi. And yet with the Dune films, I can't help but feel that they are just these huge monoliths of film that have to be viewed in a successive order for you to really walk away with that level of satisfaction. Obviously, you're going to know if a trilogy is linked, especially once it's finished. And this is something that maybe in 3 years, when we look back on the final Dune and the series is done, maybe I feel differently. I am coming from the same place I have with the first movie. I've not read the book. I don't know where the story is going, and I don't think that I should have to do that to understand this movie. I did enjoy this movie. It's a lot to look at and it's a lot to appreciate. One of the notable things that I really noticed was the shift in color palette as the story in Paul Atreides' life is taking a new turn. In the first film, it's very Atreides color based of their first planet, which I can't remember what it's called, which is a rain planet with a lot of ocean. It's blues. It's kind of this teal tone to a lot of the movie. And now in this second one, it shifts to this very much Arrakis orange. And since now Paul is spending time with the Fremen, and that's where a lot of the film takes place, we have that more orange tone. So there's a lot to look at, a lot to behold. Cinematography-wise, scoring, acting, all of it's phenomenal. I think what's hard for me as a reviewer is to walk away from this film as someone who really enjoys a narrative-driven or character-driven storyline, watch something that has become this incredible exploration of this world, but in a way that when we are halfway through a second installment in a series and you're still introducing new characters to me, and you're not necessarily adding exploration of characters from the first film and you're just adding new, I feel like everyone I have this level of disconnection from. One of the characters that I really expected this film to really hyper focus on is Zendaya's character of Chani. In the first film, she really only exists in Paul's dreams and visions, and I don't feel like I got to know her that much better. I learned a few things about her belief system and her ideology amongst other Fremen and people and what their belief systems are, which is obviously a huge part of this movie. But other than really her stance in this, I didn't really get to know her. A distance is put between me as the viewer, who has no other connection to these characters beyond the actors that are playing them. I have this level of distance that is established between them and I. The only person I can't really say this for is Paul's character, because Paul is the main character of the first film, very much the main character of the second film. It doesn't feel like this has shifted or changed, and that's okay. I like seeing kind of Paul's journey and his impact on all these other people around him. It adds for a really interesting story about the belief for or against him being the Lassen al-Gaib, or the Messiah, which is a lot of what this film follows, which I think is, again, very predictable from the first movie. I think there's some other things about this movie that are also a little bit predictable. When I can predict certain things and I know, oh, this is probably going to happen, or this person is probably in relation to this other character, and then the film ends with a lack of satisfaction or a huge climax in a way that feels like, okay, I'm excited and amped to see the next one, I feel a little bit just like about the whole experience. This is very much something that I really enjoyed watching and having seen, and I plan to go see it again. I think overall the film has a strong central premise. The first movie is about Paul as a heir to the Atreides throne and what that means and where he goes from there. This film is about Paul, the possible Messiah. I don't know where the third film goes. I guess I could predict that, but here, for the sake of spoilers, I'm not going to. Despite having spent at least 5 hours with these characters by the end of this film's runtime, despite the fact that I feel like I have a really strong grasp on the world and the power players, I still feel a sense of disconnect to this movie that makes it still feel more like a spectacle or something I witnessed or experienced rather than a film that I know how to talk about and to then have a conversation about. I know this is vague. I know this is probably confusing. I'm excited to hear your thoughts, so please be sure to leave them in the comments whenever you do see Dune Part 2. Also, thank you guys so much for 4,000 subscribers. It's been a hot minute since I posted my Deadpool reaction, but that video really got us over a hump of the 4,000 mark, which is something I have been wanting to hit for about 1.5 years now, and I can't thank you guys enough for supporting the channel. If you're new here, subscribe so that you can get more videos like this. Sometimes less vague, sometimes not.